Before we get into today's video, I did want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. We are here today with a kind of an older case, kind of not an older case. This is a story, you guys, that, oh man, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, but at the same time, there's just so many people involved in this story that my heart hurts for. This is a story of Tracey Ritcher. Now, she has been referred to as a black widow and a man-eater. Before we go any further, I did want to stop and thank today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Fall is right around the corner, and HelloFresh is here to help you plan for the busy season ahead with tasty dishes delivered to your door. Simply choose your recipes and pick your delivery date and then lay back and enjoy the last days of summer knowing dinner is covered. Parents have enough back to school planning to do. I mean, every time you turn around, they need a new book, they need something for gym class, all the shopping to do with back to school, our kids, or even if you're a college student, is enough for us to have on our plate. But the good news is you can let HelloFresh do the shopping for you so you can sit back, save some time, and save some money and have your dinner groceries delivered right to your front door. And if it seems like your family is hungry all the time, HelloFresh now has where you can add on snacks, sides, and more to your weekly HelloFresh order. Just simply shop HelloFresh Market and take your pick from a curated selection of over 100 add-on items. Life has truly been non-stop for me and my family lately, and I am so thankful to have HelloFresh and their meals. And HelloFresh has quite the variety of different meal options to fit your lifestyle. Like, they have family friendly and fit and wholesome, and they even have vegetarian options. If you want to try HelloFresh, all you gotta do is go to HelloFresh.com and use my code 50ChristinaRandall, and you can get 50% off of your first box today. Yes, all you gotta do is go to HelloFresh.com, use my code, and find out how you can get 50% off of your first box today. Thanks again, HelloFresh. So let's talk about Tracey. According to reports and documentaries, Tracey Ritcher wore many different faces. Like, she lived double lives, she had children, she had multiple different husbands at different times. She was beautiful and smart and came from a well-to-do family. And so when what ended up happening with her happened, a lot of people were completely shocked. And there's a lot of people that still don't believe it went down the way investigators said it went down still to this day. Now, there's also a lot of people that definitely believes it went down that way. So I'm going to tell you guys this story to the best of my ability with all of the information that is out there. Public information. You guys go do your own research, form your own opinions. I'm just going to be telling you guys the story, filtering it through my own words. So let's just start at the beginning. Tracey Roberts was born in May of 1966 in Chicago, Illinois. She was a smart girl that went to college on a radiography scholarship. This is where she met her first husband, John Pittman. John describes meeting Tracey as like a whirlwind. He said he was extremely attracted to her from the beginning. She was beautiful. She loved all the things that he loved. John was very much into like animals. He had dogs and he loved cats, and he was just a big animal guy. And Tracey loved animals, and John loved to just stay at home when he wasn't working and not do much. And then Tracey loved to do those things. And John would later say that it did kind of catch his attention that, wow, Tracey seems to literally love and enjoy every single thing I love and enjoy, no matter how mundane or boring those things are. But nevertheless, he thought that he had found the woman of his dreams. And by 1992, Tracey was 27 years old and living in Virginia with John, who was at this time a plastic surgeon. The two had gotten married while John was still in medical school, and everything seemed completely normal at first. Now, John would go on to say that although things seemed normal at first, too good to be true, the woman of his dreams, after Tracey became pregnant with their son, Bert, things began to change with Tracey. This is where he said he started seeing her controlling, cunning, and manipulative side. John's parents would later go on to say that Tracey began to put a wedge in between them and their son. And oh my gosh, this is every mother's worst nightmare, I would think. I mean, it's definitely one of mine, that your child, your son, or your daughter ends up marrying or getting with somebody that wants to separate them or isolate them completely from their family. And this is what John's parents said that Tracey began to do. Like, they said that they went years without talking to their son, and they were very close with their son, and they thought they were close with Tracey until things slowly began to change. John would also say that Tracey was very jealous of everything, his job, and even his animals. He said that at one point, while John was out of town working, Tracey was supposed to ship the animals. It was 2 dogs and a cat to him. Tracey said that she took the animals, but then eventually would tell him that the animals got lost, that the animals were lost somewhere and nobody could find them. Later down the road, some of the neighbors in their neighborhood began to contact John and said, "Hey, I seen your cat wandering around in the neighborhood." This was like much later after during shipping that they had gotten lost. This is when John realized, like, wait a minute, did Tracey actually take my beloved animals? Remember from the very beginning, that is what John told her he loved. He was a real big animal guy and he loved his animals. And when she was supposed to ship the animals, they get lost. Now neighbors are calling him and saying that his cat is wandering around in the neighborhood. This is when John said he believed that Tracey took the animals, dumped them somewhere, and the cat ended up making its way back to trying to find its home again. John and Tracey began to argue heavily, and one night things seemingly got out of control, and this is when Tracey went and got a firearm. John said that he went outside, and when he did, because he was terrified, he did not know what she would do next. He had already at this point seen her kicking holes in the wall and being completely irate. So when he saw her get the firearm, he ran outside, and this is when he heard a loud bang. After the bang, John made contact with Tracey again, and she began to cry and said that she was sorry, that she was going to end it all, but she didn't. And John, being completely terrified, he got her calmed down, but then ended up calling 911 and basically had her like Baker acted or put into a mental facility. John would say that Tracey did fine in the mental facility, and then once she got out, she had like 6 months of therapy that she had to do, and while she was doing the therapy, everything seemed great until the therapy was over and the stuff started happening again. John would then say in a documentary that he just had a bad feeling about Tracey. She was acting weird. He worked out of town a lot. And then already, again, ever since the therapy had stopped, she was changing. She was lying. She was being mean and manipulative. And so he hired a private investigator. And when he hired a private investigator, he found out a lot. He alleges that Tracey was seeing multiple different men. He said it wasn't an affair. It wasn't just like she was having a relationship with one person and they were hiding it. She was having multiple different relationships. And as a matter of fact, the private investigator told John that a couple of these guys were out test driving new cars. They had also found out that Tracey had opened up a new life insurance policy against her husband, and they believed that she was planning on ending him. With the advice of the private investigator and a lawyer friend, John filed for a divorce. And when he filed for a divorce, all you know what broke loose. This is when Tracey went down to the police department and filed a report saying that her husband John had been SAing their 3-year-old son. To make a long story short, after the judge looked into this case, this SA allegations, he threw it out and said that it was unfounded and basically that Tracey had made it all up. Not long after that, the divorce was finalized. John had to pay Tracey child support and share custody, and John tried to move on. However, Tracey moved on very quickly. Not only was Tracey allegedly dating all these different men at one time, but in 1997, not even a year after her divorce, she began dating an oral surgeon. His name was Dr. Joseph Laspisa. Now, this relationship did not last long because allegedly Tracey tried to extort $150,000 from this oral surgeon by claiming that he SA'd her while he was working on her teeth. Now, although he was later cleared of any wrongdoing, Tracey's accusations cost the doctor his career. But Tracey did not waste any time. She moved on to the next man, Michael Roberts. Michael Roberts was a wealthy businessman from Australia. Now, she swept Michael off his feet. Do you hear me? Again, wealthy businessman from Australia, a good-looking man. She was beautiful to him, and they were married in 18 days, y'all. 18 days. 18 days. He put it all on the line. Tracey and Michael would go on to have 2 children, a son and a daughter, but they quickly separated in 2000. At the time of the separation from Michael, Tracey was battling John, her first husband, for custody of their 10-year-old son, Bert. If she lost this fight, she would lose her son and the $1,000 a month child support payment she had been receiving from him. And by 2001, Tracey was 35 years old and living with all 3 of her children in early Iowa. But things in everybody's life surrounding Tracey would go completely out of control on December 13th of 2001. On this evening, 911 got a phone call from a frantic Tracey who said that somebody had broken into her home. She used her firearm to protect her. She had a body laying on the floor in her home, and there was another man that had made his escape. She said that the man had tried to strangle her with a pantyhose. She told the 911 dispatcher that she had just finished giving her youngest child a bath while her other 2 children were playing downstairs watching TV when it happened. Tracey said the young man came upstairs and started attacking her. She said that there was a struggle, but that she was able to push the attacker off and made her way to the master bedroom, and then at this point, Tracey claimed that someone came into the room once again and another struggle ensued. She says she made her way to a gun safe that sat between the bed and the dresser, and within the struggle, she would claim that her glasses came off and she could not see. She was nearly blind, but she was still able to open the gun safe and retrieve the firearm that she said she first shot over her shoulder, okay? Because the guy is behind her, strangling her, she's blind, her glasses are off, and she's over her shoulder, okay? This is what she says happened. That's when she said that the firearm jammed, and she apparently was able to grab another firearm out of the safe and use that to finish off protecting herself. When the police arrived, this is when they came in and they saw the body of 20-year-old Dustin Weedy laying on the floor. He had been shot 9 times. And the other man that Tracey claimed came with Dustin had already fled the scene and was gone. Tracey was immediately taken to the hospital with visible marks around her neck. As you guys can see here, she looks like she's been in a struggle. She looks very upset, and the marks around her neck are red and visible. Now, investigators tried everything they could to get a description out of Tracey about the second guy that allegedly came with Dustin, but she was never able to give up that information. She said that happened so quickly and he fled, and she really didn't know. And this part is very sad. Dustin was a young man who lived in the neighborhood and would occasionally come over to help Tracey and Michael with jobs around the house. Dustin had no criminal record and was known to be very shy. Dustin's mother actually worked for Michael's business. Michael would later say in an interview that his mother had come to him and said, "Look, Dustin, it's hard for him to keep a job. You know, he doesn't really have that outgoing personality, she was just telling her boss this. And this is when Michael, who said that he felt bad for Dustin, he claimed Dustin to be maybe a little socially awkward. He used other words, but like maybe socially awkward and had a hard time. He wanted to take Dustin under his wing and love him unconditionally. Those are the exact words Michael used. Give him unconditional love and teach him some skills and basically befriend him. So when he found out that it was Dustin that was there that had allegedly attacked his wife, he was really feeling weird about this. He was like, wait a minute, what? But he said that even though he had questions and he had issues with his wife, him and Tracey had issues before, he made the decision that he was going to stand by his wife and believe his wife that Tracey did this just to protect her children from intruders. However, the more that the investigators looked into this, it just didn't make any sense. Again, Dustin had no criminal record, never been violent before. Matter of fact, when he pulled up to their house, he was parked right in the front. I mean, who comes and does something like this and pulls right in front of the house? And so they were confused, but at this point, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to blame the woman that had 3 children with red marks around her neck? Because there's only 2 people that knew what happened that night, and one of them was no longer with us. However, the police had a little bit of a secret. When they searched Dustin's car, they found a hot pink notebook, a spiral notebook, sitting on the front seat. This was a very strange discovery because inside that pink notebook, Dustin had written that a man named John Pittman had hired him to kill Tracey and her 11-year-old son, Bert. Now, just as a reminder, John Pittman is Tracey's first husband, okay? And at this point, they're going through this custody battle. She's about to lose her child support. It's been a mess between them two from the beginning. The animals lost, all of that. And now you've got this passed away 20-year-old laying on the floor. According to the investigators, they're piecing all this together in a hot pink notebook in the front seat of his car, saying that the first husband of her had hired him to end her life and her son's life. Now, they had the handwriting analyzed of this notebook, and it did match Dustin's. This was absolutely Dustin's handwriting, but still none of this made any sense. I mean, this was a 20-year-old, shy, couldn't even keep a job basically because he was so shy. Like, why would he park right in the front? How did he get a connection with Tracey's first husband? Like, none of it made any sense. However, investigators, they really didn't know what to do with this information. But what they did decide to do was not say anything about the notebook, not even to Tracey. They did not say anything to anybody about this notebook. Now, they said that Tracey would continuously call up to the investigator's office. Hey, do you have any new information? Did you find out anything about the case? She would call and check on this case all the time, even after it was closed. But they were just like, well, we'll let you know if we've heard anything. We'll let you know if we find anything else out. But they never said anything about the notebook. Not too long after the incident, Tracey and her children moved to Nebraska. And in the meantime, the authorities continued to quietly investigate. Then in 2002, Tracey went on the Montel Williams show where she told the horrifying story where she had no choice but to take the intruder's life in order to save her and her children. She was believed to be a hero. Then in 2004, Tracey and her second husband got a divorce. After this divorce, this is when Tracey went to the police and said, hey, my second husband, Michael, he's been teaming up with my first husband, John, and they planned together to end my life. She said that her husband, Michael, had actually been talking in his sleep and admitted to wanting to have her killed. Now, can you imagine her going to the police and saying, like, listen, because she's about to go through her second divorce now, so she's got 2 more children on the line here. She's like, listen, he told me in his sleep that he was going to do it. Like, these police is probably like, this is a lot surrounding you, ma'am. Like, this is a lot. We need a full team just to follow you around, because obviously everybody wants to hurt you one way or another. However, the authorities did not get a whole team to follow her around, and they did not buy Tracey's story, and they did not consider Michael any kind of suspect. While Tracey was in Nebraska, this is where she got busted for welfare fraud and she was put on probation. But then in 2010, a new Sac County prosecutor took office and decided to reopen the case of Dustin Weedy. The case had never quite sat right with anybody there, but they just really didn't know what to do. So as the new prosecutor began to look through all the evidence, and this is like 9 years, almost 10 years later after the incident that happened with Tracey at her house with the 20-year-old neighbor, Dustin. When he began to look through the folders, he realized things just didn't make any sense. Why would this 20-year-old neighbor pull right up into the front of the house if he was planning on doing this? Why would he go into the house and use pantyhose in order to strangle her? When they looked through his car and saw that he had like a baseball bat in there, he had all kind of other things that would have been far more efficient if that was his goal. And then they also realized that in those 9 shots, 3 of them were to the back of the head while Dustin was already on the ground. And it just didn't make sense. Plus, they had the notebook. Because of this, one of the investigators went to a dinner party and saw Tracey's best friend there. Her name was Mary. The investigators sat down with Mary and started talking to her and said, listen, this case with Dustin, it's just bothering me. It's, there's just so much stuff like was talking to her. And Mary said, oh, what are you talking about? Are you talking about that stupid notebook? And the investigator was like, whoa, because remember, the police didn't tell nobody about that hot pink notebook that they found in Dustin's car. The only people that knew about that was the cops. So how did Mary know? And Mary said, yeah, she told me about that notebook. This is when they realized that Tracey was far more involved than she made it seem. And in July of 2011, this new prosecutor with all the new information decided to charge Tracey with first-degree murder. His theory was that Tracey had lured Dustin into her home and forced him to write in this pink notebook. He believed she then fired the 9 shots and planted the notebook in his car to frame her ex-husband. Tracey, of course, denied everything. She said it was crazy, it was ludicrous, she would never do this. But nevertheless, the charges stuck. Tracey was in jail and trial was set. Tracey's trial got started on October 23rd of 2011 in Fort Dodge, Iowa. At this time, Tracey was 45 years old and had the support of her 20-year-old son, Bert. During this trial, both of Tracey's ex-husbands testified against her. The first one, which I've told you guys all those stories, the animals, the shotgun, and from the very beginning, and her saying that, oh, she was going to take her own life, all of the stuff. The first husband testified. The second husband, Michael, testified, and people learned a lot more there. They learned that Tracey had actually allegedly planted photos of Dustin on her in her car on the front seat, and went down to the investigators and said, oh, my second husband was in on this too. So she was trying to rope up her first husband and her second husband in the murder of 20-year-old Dustin, as well as her second husband testified that she had called the police on him and said that he had hit her when he never did, and she was setting him up, and also found out that she had taken out 3 life insurance policies on her second husband. Remember how she took them out on her first husband? Allegedly, she took out 3 on her second husband. As a matter of fact, the way that he found out was because one of the insurance agencies sent him a letter and said, hey, we've got to stop this. We got to cancel this life insurance policy. The company basically said that the company realized by him having this life insurance policy that went to his wife, it put his life in danger. So it was like $3 million she had taken out on him, and he didn't even know it. She was paying on them. So she was just waiting to get him, allegedly. Her best friend, Mary, not only testified for the prosecution about her telling her about the pink notebook, but she also remembered, Mary did, that Tracey had actually bought a hot pink spiral notebook for her son, Bert, a few years earlier. But Bert refused to take it to school with him because he didn't want to take a hot pink notebook to high school. And she had had that conversation with Mary before and must have forgot about it, and then told her about the hot pink notebook sitting on the front seat of the car. And it is thought and believed, if this is kind of hard to follow, it is believed that Tracey had basically forced Dustin to write in there that her first husband hired him to come and end her life, okay? The notebook was left in the car. The police never said anything about it. Tracey wanted that information out there so she could use it against her first husband to keep full custody and keep the money rolling in from the first husband. However, the investigators never released that information. That's why she kept calling and calling to check on the case. And when they found out that her best friend Mary knew about it, this is when they knew, okay, wait a minute. All the pieces started coming together. The whole trial ended up happening, and a jury came up with a conclusion, and they found her guilty.
Verdict form number 1, we the jury find the defendant, Tracey Ann Ritcher, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. Is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Does defense counsel wish to poll the jury?
We do, Your Honor.
Now, after the verdict, Tracey's second husband, Michael, the one that is the father of her 2 younger children, said that he was very glad that this verdict came through with her being guilty because that she had actually tried to kill him too by suffocation one time. It's like all of this stuff had happened. It's almost like she would do something to one of these men or husband or whoever, and then when it didn't go through, she would smooth it over. She was a master manipulator, according to all of these people. Now, Mona Weedy, who is Dustin Weedy's mother, said that Tracey ruined their whole family because Dustin had 2 sisters. It was him, his mom, his dad, and his 2 sisters. She gave the analogy of what happened when her brother passed away. She said that her family was like a glass that you drink out of. And if you let go of that glass and it hits the concrete, that's what happened when Tracey took her brother's life, because the family said that 11 months after Dustin's passing, the father of Dustin and the other 2 girls and the husband of Mona went to the gravesite where Dustin was buried, and he ended his own life right there. And it just shattered the whole family. I mean, within a year, it went from mother, father, brother, and 2 sisters to just the mom and the 2 sisters. It literally it destroyed them. I hope and pray to God that they are okay now. I mean, I don't know how you say you've healed from it or you never move on, but I do hope that they have a happy life and they're thriving now, because that is just so sad. And for what? Allegedly, just because Tracey wanted to control everything and everybody, that she could just use Dustin, who was considered to be kind of like an outcast and just wanted to be friends and be loved and, work for Michael and learn some new things. And so he was very vulnerable. She looked at Dustin as just a tool to get what she wanted. Like he wasn't a real human, like somebody's son and brother. And it's so sad. Now, Tracey was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But this is what makes it even more strange. I want to be very careful, first of all, what I say, because Tracey's son, Bert, who is out there, I believe he runs like a Facebook page for his mom. From everything that I could see, he very much still loves his mom, supports his mom, and believes his mom is innocent. Now, no matter what happened, my heart hurts for him. That's his mother. I admire the fact that he loves his mom and stands by his mom, and he obviously believes her. I guess I don't want to give too many of my opinions on what I think Tracey could be doing there, but he loves his mom, and that's hard. That's hard no matter what. And nobody wants to believe that the person that they love is a monster. It's just so. Moving on from that, I did see an interview with Michael, the second husband, and his other 2 children. Now, this interview taken place like 8 years prior, so I hope things have changed since then. Remember now, Michael had 2 kids with Tracey, a son and a daughter. He had full custody of them, and he was from Australia. He said that he could not take his kids back home to Australia because of Tracey, and that even though Tracey was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, he was court ordered to bring his kids to see her in prison, even though they did not want to go. And as a matter of fact, at that time, he said that he had already been sentenced to like 30 days in jail twice in contempt for not taking the kids. I ain't never heard of no mess like that. Have y'all? I have never heard of that. You have to take your children to visit a convicted in prison. Like, you have to take them to, what? That's what he said, y'all. That is what he said in a 2020 interview. The second husband also said that he was court ordered to pay her like $40,000 in child support. And so back like from when she had the kids. And so he was sentenced, court ordered to pay her like $1,000 a month in child support. He's like, I can't afford to do that. So he was supposed to be paying her child support while she was in prison. I ain't never heard of no mess like this before in my life. That's what he said, y'all. Can you believe it? So it almost seems like if everything they're saying about Tracey is true, that she is still controlling and manipulating these people from in the prison. And that is not it. Allegedly, oh my goodness. Allegedly, she has people and family that is in law enforcement, and people have claimed, again, I don't know if this is true, people have claimed that they have thrown their weight around in order to mess with them and bully them. And she's still trying to get out of prison still to this day, and saying that she's innocent of this situation with Dustin. In June of 2012, from prison, Tracey was on Dateline NBC in a 2-hour special where she stuck to her self-defense story there too. And her son also appeared on the show as well to back up her story. And I just saw that in 2014, the judge did allow Michael to take the 2 children and move back to Australia with them. Since Tracey was sentenced, Tracey has filed 2 appeals, and they have both been denied. Tracey's got people that come and visit her in prison. Tracey looks beautiful in prison. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. I look like a gargoyle, honey. I look like the funky old troll that lived under the bridge. And Tracey looks good in prison. So what do you guys think? Have you guys heard about this case? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that, I love y'all. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.